Well, welcome to another segment of the Competence podcast. It's been a little bit of a break here before we had a guest on, but we brought an awesome guest today. So we brought Kevin, the CEO from Phoenix Technologies, and so a lot of the merchants that I work with that are listening in, and even merchants that are considering our services, a lot of our merchants are looking at different types of third-party checkouts, CRMs, different payment orchestration platforms, and so Phoenix has been a platform that has been just booming and has been growing month over month and just hand over fist. And we've heard some great feedback from a lot of our clients in using their service. So glad to finally put this in the calendar, Kevin, and finally get connected once again. And I know it's been a long journey here and getting here, but appreciate you having you on, and thank you for taking some time today. So welcome.
Awesome, Michael. It's so good to connect. Thanks for having me on the show. I know you're a very busy guy. You're doing some amazing work at Compaytence as well. And it's been very exciting times here at Phoenix. We've grown tremendously. We're on track to surpass $1 billion earned for our merchants this year. And very excited to talk about all of the amazing things that we're doing here and our collaboration with Compaytence.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, Kevin, yeah, tell me a little bit about yourself. I know obviously I know you, but just for our audience here and for merchants that are considering just different checkout solutions, tell us a little bit about your background and really what got you into starting up Phoenix and the group that you have today.
Yeah, so I essentially I started as a merchant before I was kind of a solutions provider. Go back as far as I guess 2018. I was in college, senior in college. I was really bored, and I started watching drop shipping videos on YouTube. And I think a lot of the merchants probably listening have a similar origin story. And I just started trying it, and it was funny because not to offend anyone, but I was like, wow, if these gurus and they don't look that smart. If these guys wearing bro tanks that don't sound that smart is actually making all this money. Like, fuck, that's where I want to go compete against. I don't want to go to like Goldman Sachs or McKinsey, which is kind of where everyone from my school was going to. So I just went straight into e-commerce. Took about 9 months. Lost kind of a ton of money on my personal credit card, and I remember store number 9 for me and one of the co-founders at Phoenix, Raul, was my business partner at the time. Store number 9, I never forget it. August 1st, 2018, we launched it. August 12th, 2018, we're doing 30K a day in revenue, and the rest of our lives just kind of became e-commerce focused. So I've been a direct response merchant now to date, done over $200 million in revenue, all direct response, all bootstrapped. And I always felt like there was a gap in solutions. So, Shopify is an amazing product. Shopify checkout, Shopify payments, the whole operating system. It's elegant, it's easy to use. Obviously, it's changed my life, it's changed tons of people's lives. The moment you're not a fit for Shopify, whether that's because you're not a fit for Shopify payments, or you feel like the checkout constrains you a little bit, or you're a subscription merchant, you want to own your data, or you're a little bit more higher risk on the subscription side.
Hmm.
You look at the other solutions, in my opinion, not to offend anyone, I respect our competition. There's such a big drop off. Like, it's not this venture backed professional product like Shopify is. And that's kind of how Phoenix came about. So, I set out to build the software that I wanted to use, payment stack that I wanted to use, and kind of Phoenix was born in 2024.
Nice, nice. Yeah, no, it's always interesting to hear everyone's story. I mean, the e-com game, it seems like it gets younger and younger where people
It
start,
does.
people I've even worked with people that are, 14, 15 years old in some cases,
Yeah.
and they have, typically they have, their mom or somebody signing on their entity
Yeah,
documents.
yeah, yeah. Yep.
It's pretty remarkable the amount of access that you have just by, whether it's YouTube and all these different forums, and everyone, if you find the right ones, a lot of people are willing to help and really help cultivate that continual culture on ecom and doing the right thing, right? I think you got to find the right coaches and really latch onto them, right? So, in terms of that with Shopify, and again, just kind of going off of this here, we're seeing a major change in just risk appetite in general. I think there's kind of three common themes that I have seen being in risk and payments and really focusing on helping e-com sellers, you know, scale, right? And so it's Vamp is one. right?
Yep.
I think that kind of hit us loud and clear last year, and the ratios have gone down effective April this year. Um, and then also with like Mastercard's GRIP program, global regulatory compliance, FTC compliance, and that's kind of been it's been around, right? But it's been amplified more, especially around subscriptions. And then there's this new Mastercard scam program too. So we're seeing kind of this like convergence of three different things happening that are really focused on subscription merchants.
Yeah.
I think most of my merchants now, I'd say 70% are doing some form of subscriptions or MRR. Whether it's direct refills or VIP, and I think VIP is getting more scrutinized too. But in terms of that, looking at it, and a lot of customers now are kind of making this migration to not have a Shopify native checkout or subscription app. How do you guys separate? Now, obviously, and it's no surprise. Like I have customers that are working with like Checkout Champ. I have customers that are working with Sticky. There's Aptix, there's Tagada Pay. Like, how do you guys separate in that direct response marketing field from all these different kind of sets that are out there?
Yeah, I think so. So that's a really great question, and I certainly respect all the solutions in the space. I'm sure they're doing great work for merchants. I think there's a few core differentiators about us that our merchants really like to appreciate. The first one is, we think like a Silicon Valley company, meaning, even though I'm the founder, kind of CEO, it's not, this business doesn't exist to be like my own personal piggy bank. I report to a board. We've raised venture dollars. We actually just recently completed terms for our extended Series A. So we did Series A back in August. 100% of our revenues goes back to product and merchant experience. So that's the first thing. Like, if you check in with me every quarter, and I hope this is the case, our product changes dramatically on a quarter to quarter basis, because everything our merchants pay us and a lot more than that, we kind of operate just under break even, to kind of be financially efficient and disciplined. But we bring up all the revenues and then some back to the product merchant experience. That's the first piece, and I think that's unique in this direct response space for most of the players in this space, if not all of them. The company exists to enrich the co-founders, essentially, if that makes sense. So that's a big difference. We care about merchant feedback. We're always trying to improve our product. It always gets better. The second one is that, we recently come from direct response. So, my co-founder Trevor comes from high risk payments. My co-founder Raul was always the marketing funnel hacking mind. I was a DTC merchant very recently. So we have a strong sense of the pain points people experience in this space. We've lived it from first principles, the bad, the ugly, and we really have a passion to solve it. And when merchants talk to us, they know that we understand their universe. We understand their lives. And then I think the third one is, we really only want to make money from our merchants if we provide value. So our go-to-market strategy is to white glove a free A/B test against any other competitor out there. And we want the merchant to make more money at the end of that test or not work with Phoenix at all. And I think, those three things have kind of been big differentiators for our business and why we've been growing
Yeah.
so fast.
Yeah, I'm definitely seeing the reinvestment. I mean, you guys are always leveling up in some way, shape, or form. I think I've been connected with Trevor for a couple of years now, and I think when he first introduced Phoenix to me, it was a year and a half or so back now. Time flies, man.
Yeah.
It feels like it was like a month ago, but it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, where you guys were then and where you're at today is like night and day. I mean, the staffing has gone up tremendously. You guys have kind of pivoted, and we're kind of doing payments to a degree. Now it's kind of moving really focused on the software and really just the overall aesthetics and making sure that you have kind of that white glove kind of technical first kind of mindset.
Yeah.
Now, in looking at that, obviously merchants are looking at different evaluations, and customer experiences are key, right? And I think that's been a big difference in what I've been seeing, kind of from a top-down
Yeah.
view as a consultant, right? And I always give my customers options. I'm like, hey, here are kind of like the main ones that we have seen from my merchant portfolio, but they have to make the decision. If you were to lay it out, like what would you say is like the definition of your experience that you provided Phoenix, or maybe like 2 to 3 core things that you guys really kind of focus on? I know you kind of touched on that previously, but like, how would you define it?
Yeah, so we have four claims that we really stand by for every single merchant. The first one is we're going to increase revenue per visitor by over 20% for you compared to any other platform. And we can do that through a variety of ways: more reliable performing checkouts, better payment routing. Usually there's always some gap that we're able to fill. So the first one is 20% increased revenue per visitor. Second one is under 30-minute response times from a US based performance team that really knows and cares about your business goals. So that's something that we found that was absent in the space. And the third one is less than 1% revenue disruption for tech failures. And that's why we love this A/B test, is because a lot of non-technical folks, which tend to be the D2C founders, they look at two checkouts, it looks visually the same. They check it on their iPhone, maybe their computer, and they go, oh, it's the same thing. Checkout is actually very complicated engineering problem to solve for. How do you render the page? How do you do it on different devices? How do you do it fast? How do you do it reliably? It's almost every competitor you listed earlier, I know just from an architecture perspective, does check out differently. So it's not like a one size fits all. So you really need to test it. And then the fourth claim is no engineers required. So, you can come in as a non-technical, no engineers on your team, use our platform, and we will walk you through everything you need to do. And, when we do need help, that's where folks like you really come in handy. But those are kind of the guarantees that we give to the merchant. And that's what we want them to hold us accountable to, is those four claims.
Yeah, yeah, and we're seeing a lot of merchants that are less technical. I mean, everyone, I think the cat's out of the bag, like everyone's seeing merchants getting shut down on Shopify payments, and it's almost,
Yeah.
I shouldn't say it's impossible. It is very difficult to maintain and scale a brand on a Shopify payments native subscription app, and you're at risk of losing your subscriptions, right? So,
All of them. Yeah.
um, yeah, the technical uplift is key. We've seen some merchants that are less technical that, they kind of go to one partner and, they'll be like, this is just wasn't as easy as I thought. So, it sounds like you're able to really wrap up the support around those merchants, getting them up and running quickly. And then again, there's almost nothing to lose to a degree if you're guaranteed a really, really good conversion rate uplift. So that's good to hear for sure.
Exactly. What we like to do is we want to do the split test. Then we can talk about economics and fees. We'll do the free trial if the merchant really knows what they're doing.
Hmm.
They come from a competitor, or they can prove that they're doing decent volume. And then that just makes the whole discussion way easier afterwards, because they see, whoa, compared to solution provider A, I'm making 10, 15% more. All right, now, our fees might be a little higher than our competitors, but it's an ROI based decision rather than like a vacuum conceptual one.
Yep, yep, exactly. No, some great points, and definitely good takeaways there. In terms of like, if we're looking at it kind of from a merchant side of things now, and again, it's funny when I speak to merchants, everyone wants a silver bullet like answer to be successful, and like
Yeah, yeah,
there's way more art than science, right? And so that's kind of how I break it down. It's like there is no like prescriptive roadmap, and like here's just how to do it, and like A to B. There's always going to be this thing where you need to have some failure. You need to kind of have the business speak to you to optimize and build it and make it better, right? But I always kind of go to one thing, at least from my side, from like a payments and risk and operational perspective, is that you're always like focused on the customer. It's like very cliche, very Amazon thing to say, but like you always want to keep your customer experience top of mind, right? You make sure that their products are fulfilled on time. You're not selling them like junky gadgets that break in 2 days, and
yeah.
whatever you're selling, your claims are accurate, right? All this you can work it backwards, and you're like, is the customer experience there, and is what I'm telling them, is it accurate, right? So it's kind of my side of things, and kind of like what the most successful merchants are doing, and how they're kind of working backwards on each fundamental thing, and just focus on customer. What would you say on your side? You guys work with a lot of merchants as well. What are the most successful merchants doing? Is it one thing? Is it two things? What's kind of some common themes on your side that you're seeing?
Yeah, that's such a great question. So I would say I'll break it down to maybe three things that separate the top merchants from, let's just say, the middle of the pack. The first thing is you have to be good at e-commerce. Like there's no replacement for that skill. And what I sometimes see is like, some people that aren't that good at e-commerce try to supplement that with higher risk behaviors. And that always ends up not working out. So like, at the end of the day, you have to be a good marketer. You have to know how to push product. You have to know how to do media buying. You have to know how to design landing pages. You have to come prepared, being a good D2C e-commerce mind. Everything else kind of wrapper around it, right? So luckily, a lot of these merchants do come in as great marketers. So that's usually not why they fail. Now, the ones that come in and have no idea about e-com and just want to, take a bunch of risk, that's always just, it's a losing proposition. It's never going to work out.
Mm-hmm.
The second thing is, and this is why what you do is so incredible, it's actually about operations and risk management. So, and that's what I notice some of these marketers hate thinking about. Like they love plugging in the creative and scaling all these strategies on Facebook and TikTok. They fucking hate, understanding what their customer support response times are. They don't want to audit if their phone support team is wait time is actually 1 minute or 3 minutes. That makes a huge difference. Is your CS email response time 4 hours or less than 1 hour? You're going to see that difference. So, if you're able to launch, let's say, a new store every month, why can't you launch 4 stores every day? It's only because of operations. So, org design, turning your business into metrics and KPIs, especially because the e-commerce founders tend to be very entrepreneurial and don't come from like the corporate backgrounds that you and I have kind of had a blessing. I was at McKinsey or Wells Fargo. We kind of knew how like a mature company would run. A lot of these kids don't have that. So, operations or risk management is a big one. And I would say the third one is just never having complacency and always being paranoid when the times are good. So, the e-commerce guys that blow up and have issues are the ones that they're all of a sudden making a bunch of money. So they just start traveling and, they offload their whole business to their VAs. And that we see that pattern, like, these people are AWOL and then bad things happen, whether it's Midge gets shut down or things get out of control, you're not growing anymore. The ones that are in the good days, willing to still act like, it's the bad days, they grow and they stick around. And that's really like a mindset approach, especially because with D2C, it can quickly turn into like a lifestyle. I mean, it's one of the beautiful things about business. It can be easy on your lifestyle, but if you get a little too complacent, especially direct response where maybe the offense is a little easier, you got to think about defense.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think that's where I think in any business, it's easy to get comfortable once you just start hitting that little bit of success. The money starts coming into the bank. And yeah, I think me and you are in the same mindset. Like I get more paranoid now, like with more success, like at
Of
my
course.
business, because I'm like, where are my potential blind spots? Where can I invest or where can I hire somebody that's better than me at certain parts of my business?
Yep.
That's kind of where I'm going now is that I don't want to be doing everything like I was when it was just me and my co-founder at the time. I want to hire people that have better skills in certain parts of the business and, hire an operations lead or hire, a CS team or whatever you're trying to do is that you got to kind of place your bets and they're strategic bets, but it's going to help the business level up even more. And you're going to be able to manage the business from a top down versus just be in the business. Right. So very
Absolutely.
good points. Very good points for sure. Cool. So now in terms of like, you guys have like evolved like tenfold since we initially talked. Again, like, well, there's 2 years back, year and a half back. But like, what are some kind of key things that you guys are looking to ship here in the future? Like next 3 months, do you guys have any new kind of focuses or core things that you're really looking to expand on or bring to the table that maybe it's not out there today?
Absolutely. So, I think the big elephant in the room for everyone is AI.
Hmm.
So I'm actually very bullish on AI agents, not only for us internally, which we've kind of gone through that internal transformation, but I think like direct response is an amazing space to deploy that type of thinking and technology. So we've been working on some pretty compelling products that are agentic, and we're very excited to eventually roll them out. So that's a big one. We want to make our platform even more self-service. So that a merchant can really, with as little clicks, do more things. As little charts, know more things. I think that's something that the whole entire space really wants. You don't want to look at 30 different graphs each day to figure out like how you should spend your time. You don't want to click 10,000 times. Your team members don't want to click 10,000 times to do things. So we're definitely trying to make things a lot more intuitive. And then I think the third thing is, we also want to kind of move, let's call it up market with the biggest direct response players. So, we're in talks and we've commercialized with some of the biggest direct response names that everyone would know. So we're very excited to also expand our capabilities for them. And obviously, if it works for the 9-figure volume kind of direct response businesses, that really just matriculates down also to the smaller guys.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. So yeah, I think in terms of what you guys are doing, again, I've been hearing some really great feedback. You guys do throw great parties too. I see all these cool events you guys are
That's
doing.
Trevor. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I figured
Yeah.
you'd be the one leading the charge with that. So um, yeah, he's doing some really good things and talking to a lot of partners that I work with too, and coaches and different communities that are in the direct response space. So no, I think in terms of like where you guys are going, definitely excited for what we're seeing and how we partner and work together on the payments side of things, risk management. And it was a pleasure, getting to catch up and finally putting this in the calendar. I know it's been a little bit. We've been kind of just heads down working and grinding, but as always, a pleasure to have you on, and we look forward to continuing our partnership.
Yeah, Michael, what I'd say about you is this space is big, but it's also small. I've only heard incredible things about you. And I think that's a testament, especially in the direct response space. Not everyone has sterling reputations. I've never heard of you fucking anyone over or taking advantage of people. In the deals that we have done and times that, our organization has worked together, you've always been very selfless, kind of outcomes focused. Let's worry about the small stuff later. And I think it's a testament to how you do business. And I know you've been growing your organization very well. And I think you bring a breath of fresh air focusing on risk and operations when a lot of these, let's call it e-commerce bros, just want to focus on pounding the marketing and pounding the cash flow. So, I highly recommend your service to everyone. And I think especially if someone's a little bit more operationally green, but a really talented marketer, they're probably just like a hand in glove fit
Oh
for
yeah,
what you do.
yeah. No, I appreciate that. Thank you again. Sentiments are appreciated, and appreciate you guys as well. And yeah, that's what I say. It's kind of our thing. It's like you do the fun stuff. You go do the marketing and give
Yep.
me all the boring crap on the back end. But that's the crap that I like. I'm a weirdo, so.
And we all need people that focus on that type of stuff. So
Yep.
I certainly wish I had you in my younger years when I made some of those operational mistakes. But so you're doing an amazing job, and it was great having this conversation.
Absolutely, man. Well, I appreciate it, and thanks again. And until next time, man. Appreciate it.